before we got started about how we're just talking about how everyone's different, everyone has different opinions. Like I said, you should have seen Bo's face when I mentioned that I went to Disney World in Florida with my girlfriend, no kids. And I'm like, it's the best. And you think I'm.
I said lock this guy up immediately. I think he's a threat to children and people everywhere. Adults aren't supposed to go, are they? But then we hear that you're going. Yes,
It's the best without kids. I've been with kids, and
Listen,
but I
if
without.
you went to Disneyland or Disney World as a child, it is magical going there as an adult because like all of your childhood like storylines and narratives and characters are all there. So I'm a child at heart. And so I like going. My husband and I go. He had never been when we first started dating, we went together and he's a huge Star Wars nerd. So the whole Star Wars land is awesome. And like if you love the stories, it's a really magical place to sort of get away from the rest of the world and eat
Well,
churros.
would you want to go though if you got motion sickness on rides? Because that's what I have. I've gone to Universal, I've gone to MGM, I've gone to all those. I can't ride the rides because I'll throw up.
There's no point in going then. I'm so
Thank you. So
sorry.
that's the reason I it never really. It's like nah.
Disney has a lot of like the Little Mermaid ride. They have like these.
That's not the one we ride. We ride this.
Yeah. What do you ride? What's your go-to? What's your go-to?
We go to Disneyland. Well, we lived in LA for about a year, but we do the Star Wars land. I love so much. And then there's like for me, like growing up, I remember the Pirates of the Caribbean, and honestly, it's just like I don't know. It's just nostalgia. It's like it reminds me of like a simpler and happier time in the world.
A little less complicated. Now, is the Star Wars kind of rubbing off on you? Because my understanding is like the more you watch it, the more it really starts ingraining itself in. Is this happening to you?
Yes. So I never got into it, and then my husband sort of Trojan horsed me with Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian. So we started watching.
Oh yeah, that's a good book. Yeah,
it happened to a lot of people.
Oh, it just like what a sweet little creature. And then I was like, "What? Tell me more of these stories." And so we started watching. We did the whole 9-part feature films, and I'm a goner. I love it. All the most recent ones too are just like so fantastic. And then Andor and The Mandalorian, and yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd now.
that whole arc could go on for eternity. So I mean, in the future, you could be like a Star Wars figurine. I mean, your husband would just roll out the red carpet everywhere you went, be like, "This is my Star Wars queen."
That is absolutely.
Well, in Rise of the Resistance, because you haven't been, you could handle that. It's not a roller coaster. It's almost like you're part of the movie, don't you think? That ride.
Yeah, it's I mean, there is a drop, which is really fun and scary, but for the most part, it's not like a roller coaster up and down. You're just kind of moving around and watching the story unfold. And you're part of it. It's so fun.
It's like a 15-minute scene in a movie, and you feel like you're a part of it. It's
but
really
if there's movement stuff, what I'm telling you is like I don't know what triggers it either. So sometimes I'll be on a plane, turbulence, I'll be fine. Sometimes it's like nothing, and I am hurling. I'm gonna get too much detail. But it's horrible.
Maybe
so I don't yeah, exactly. That's my point. It's like let's just stick with jet skis.
He has 2 young daughters that are super cute, 3 and 1, right?
3 and 1, yeah.
He'll be at Disney and he'll be on all the rides. I guarantee we're gonna have the Mickey Mouse ears.
I'll be holding the jackets while they ride.
I'm not gonna be riding. I didn't know that about you, that you're such a wuss.
Yeah, well.
Well, we're talking to Elizabeth. Is Tabish and
Tabish.
It's Tabish. I told him that. I was like, it's Tabish.
Honestly, I mean, it's Lebanese, so it really probably should be Tabish, but we've always just said Tabish. So.
Tabish. Dang it. Oh,
maybe it's because like she's in The Chosen, so you think you have to put like this kind of enunciation on it, like this Middle Eastern Tabish or something.
Yes, and I was walking in between borders. She has a different accent, and I'm like, I don't know. What could it be? But yeah, so we won't talk about Disney the whole time.
Most of the time.
I could, because I'm telling you, as an adult, going without kids is the most fun. Nostalgia, and then you don't have to. It's you're doing what you want to do, and if the kids you focus on the kids. When it's just you and your partner, I recommend it to everyone.
So no kids for you and your husband, then, correct?
Not yet. No.
any maybe planning on in the future, but
We'd like to.
you're working so much though. I mean, you're going to have
I
to
know.
turn a bunch of stuff down if you're going to have kids, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
All right, so we were just, we were discussing before we got started about, so Bo's an actor and he's been in a bunch of different things, and he's noticed, and I don't want you to explore it, but he's really impressed by your career arc.
Yeah.
I want to get into that.
Yeah. So obviously everyone has their own journey in this industry, right? And so you started, it seemed like behind the camera. I mean, you were directing, you were cinematography, you were doing all these editing. I mean, was it before you started in front of camera? Was this at the same time?
It's all sort of mixed up together for me because when I was, I've always like loved editing and like learning about cameras. So growing up, I kind of self-taught myself editing and filmmaking, but really rudimentary sort of ways. Like just really, it was like as I was maturing, the technology of filmmaking was rapidly changing. So when I was really young, it was like these little cassette tapes and videotapes. And then as I, got into my college years, it became digital and on SD cards. So I've kind of like grown up with the advancement of this technology. But I loved doing that, but I also loved acting. So I would like do community theater and school plays and everything. And then in college at Oklahoma State, there wasn't a filmmaking like course or degree. So I kind of mixed my own thing. I did film theory and then theater, and I was directing and acting in theater shows. And then also just kind of on the side, making my own experimental films and just really sort of exploring the art of cinema and storytelling visually and with music and everything. And so I kind of made my own degree in a way. And then when I moved to Austin, I was primarily focused on acting, and it was mostly commercial work, which was not the most creatively fulfilling. And because of some of the frustrations of the types of roles that I was getting auditions for, being kind of one dimensional or, just not very interesting or real. Yeah. Me and my friends started writing and producing our own short films about female stories. And I directed all of those and edited them. And it was really just sort of an answer to an issue that we all felt. But then when I booked The Chosen, I've taken a break from directing. So it's been a little bit, I keep kind of going back and forth between the two, but I love both types of storytelling. Yeah.
Well, it probably really helps you as an actor because film, television is a director's medium. Some people get convoluted as to who's in charge. Like, it's a director's medium, and as actors, you're fortunate enough to play in that world, but at the same time, having an understanding of being a director and then also in front of camera probably really helps not only your presence, but the technical aspect of things. How wide is the lens? How much movement should we be doing this? Because the lens is wider, you can move more, but if not, it's close. You got to save your emotional takes for the super close, and how all that kind of stuff probably really was magnified by your understanding of being a director, I would imagine.
Very much so. I feel like both sides have helped the other. So from experiences of acting, I've been able to, I think, it's helped me know how to communicate with actors as a director, and kind of be aware of what an actor needs on set, especially if they're going into an emotional scene. And then, the reverse of that too, of just like knowing what types of shots are conveying different messages. And yes, a wide shot is so much different in terms of what you need to do for your performance versus an extremely close up. So like knowing all of that and being able to learn from multiple,
And in your experience, you probably had it with directors who were actors versus directors who were not actors. I've always loved working with directors who are actors because they get it. It's like there's this symbiotic relationship versus those who have never been in front of camera. They may not know how to communicate to the actor. They may not know exactly what the person's needing to get to emotional state. But I've always loved working with directors who were actually actors themselves. That's always been the best.
Yeah, I do too. I actually found out recently that Dallas had a theater degree that he had acted before. I'm like, that, of course he did. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
Because he knows exactly how to communicate with us actors. Yeah.
So, what would you say is your passion? I mean, if you had to pick one, is it you more of a director or an actress? I mean, obviously you're good at both. That's gonna be that you have to choose in real life. But like, do you have one
Yeah.
that you lean towards more that you can see yourself doing longer, or you just want to do it all?
I enjoy both, absolutely. I feel more comfortable as a director, though. I feel more engaged in the process. As an actor, you have to have this really, really subjective, personal, embodied, and emotional experience, and you have to do that in front of a bunch of people. So there's a vulnerability to it that's rather uncomfortable for me, and I'm sure for others. But like, I don't necessarily enjoy being watched or seen or analyzed, or you do a take and then the director and DP and a bunch of people are watching the take on the monitor and talking about it and whispering, and you just like it kind of gets you
Yeah.
nervous.
And
uh,
you're reading their facial expressions. They're like,
is
yeah.
this
And you're
good?
like,
I don't
oh, I
know.
don't even need to hear what you're saying. I know what you're thinking.
I
Let's
know.
just do it again. It's fine.
And then, like, are they not telling me an actual note because they don't want to hurt my feelings, or
Yeah.
just like all these
Yeah.
kind of neurotic things. But I feel like I can channel all of that neurosis well into directing. So when I'm directing, I can kind of remove myself from the process and really look at the many different things and organize them and communicate in different ways. And I just love the experience of being able to bring all these things together to tell a story and to create an emotion and create a mood and a tone in a film. And
Now, are
I
you one of
really
those
love
directors who are like, sorry, because one of those directors who will like step in and be like, give me a line read, and you're like, I'm gonna tell you how to say this. I'm an actress. I'll tell you how to do this, and then you do it, and the actor's standing like, oh my gosh, I hear that. That's a huge bugaboo. Directors to do a reading for you kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I would imagine as an actress to not do that would be insanely challenging because you're like, God, just do this. You're not
I
doing
will
this.
I will say, if I've ever if I don't recall an instance, but like I'm sure I've been given a line read of just like say
Yeah,
it this way. I'm fine as an actor. I'm fine with that. I'm
I
like,
am too. I am
it's
too. That doesn't
totally
insult
okay.
me.
It doesn't offend me.
Mm-mm.
The director has a vision for this moment, and I'd like to fulfill that vision. So the
Mhm.
fastest way there is great. Like it doesn't hurt my ego or anything. As a director, I
Yeah.
do like, yeah, I would be careful to not do that. It would have to be something so specific that I'm like, it has to be this way. Otherwise, I think it's fun to watch actors interpret things their own way and explore and find things in their own way. But it's all so dependent on the exact scene, the line, the time that you have available. I mean, with TV, there's definitely like limited time. You have to film so much. With a feature film, there might be a little bit more wiggle room to explore. But yeah, it's all a little dependent on the situation.
I want to ask you this as my job, I'm a morning show host, and so on radio. And so, like, when I listen to other morning shows, I can enjoy them, but I also am like, I would have done it that way, or wow, it's taking too long to get into the segment.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself as director and an actress, and Bo, I know you're an actor, where I've heard both. I've heard like Quentin Tarantino recently in an interview was saying that he it almost ruins some TV shows and movies, although he's a big fan of all this stuff because he's like, they should have done it there, should have done it there. But also, on the other hand, he was mentioning he also knows how hard it is to
Mm.
make stuff. And so,
Oh yeah.
are there things you're watching and you're like, man, they really nailed that, or does it kind of ruin it because you know how the sausage is made?
I am always analyzing and trying to look at the stitches and everything of how things are put together. If not to criticize, but to learn, to be like, oh, that moment, that sequence made me feel so much and feel this very specific thing, and then kind of go back and be like, well, why is that, and deconstruct it and try to figure out what it is. I love getting lost in a story, so I try not to overanalyze something while I'm watching it. But I do notice that, like, when I'm watching something and I'm analyzing it a lot and like seeing the cracks is usually when um it's not the best storytelling, when you're like, oh, it could, if you're thinking as an audience member, it could have been done differently, it could have been this instead, then like something's not working, which is also important information to use and to know in the future. So yeah, I mean, I think the whole point of filmmaking is to let people get lost in the world and really like be all in. And so everything you're doing is to try to make that happen, so that you don't see the stitches in the editing, in the creation of the piece.
And you mentioned earlier how you don't like being, you know, analyzed, and it is vulnerable. I'm not an actor, but I could see that. I've done little silly things and skits, and then everyone's like, "All right, go," and people are waiting on you, and that's not any budget. That's just stuff, and so and I don't mind it because I'm it's just part of what my job is. But there's no money behind it. It's not gonna be a movie. It's some dumb clip or put it on TikTok for a morning show. But still, everyone's like, "Can you get this one right? You flubbed the thing." Okay, but you say that, and then your career, is seemingly so, at least in front of the camera, blew up with Chosen. And as far as playing Mary Magdalene, like one of the biggest historical characters of all time.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Like, one, how you were able to get that role, but also the pressure to get that right. I mean, you're acting alongside Jesus. You gotta get it right.
Yeah, you really talk about your process, because this is something a lot of people don't understand, the process in getting something this magnitude, the phases there are, and the ups and downs and things like that.
I mean, I'm acting alongside Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus. So like,
you're not Jesus, Jared. It's not really Jesus.
It's not Jesus.
No.
Oh.
The reason I'm saying that is that, like, from day one, it's always been a very intimate and emotionally safe to be vulnerable set. And like, knowing that all of these actors, we are portraying these beloved figures from history and from religion. So like, there's a lot of pressure there, yes, but while we're filming it, while we're creating it, we're just actors with each other, and we're friends, and we care for each other. And all of our friendships on set have sort of enhanced these dynamics between these characters. And there are so many emotional moments that we've all been through, especially the past 2 seasons have been so intense, that through that grief, I think we've all really bonded. And so as actors, we're not looking at it from the perspective of, I'm playing Mary Magdalene, and like this one of the most beloved figures of history. It's not that when we're on set. It's not that while we're filming. It is, I'm playing a role that I care so much about, and I've put work into and memorized the lines and cared about her emotional state, and I'm bringing whatever I can from myself to the role, and also allowing myself to be affected by the people around me. And so it's still a project. It's still filmmaking. It's still acting. And I think the importance of this story to so many people could be intimidating in a lot of ways. But I think when we're on set, we try to keep it real and keep it honest and vulnerable with each other, as if it is just telling a story without the worldwide context of who these people were.
Well, like, I'm sorry, Bob, but like, about the craft service table, y'all don't hang out with Judas, do you? I mean, you can't trust that guy.
We
Maybe I
love
don't
Luke
understand how it
so
works.
much. Luke Simeon
Poor
is
guy.
one of the most wonderful. He's such a fantastic actor, and as a person, he is a gem, just an absolute doll. So yeah, I mean, we all know we are not our characters.
Maybe I don't understand how Hollywood works.
You don't understand.
I thought it was really Jesus and Judas.
I'll ask, as
Right.
far as you are playing one of the most beloved characters, historically speaking, for historical times, for thousands of years, is it a hindrance or does it help to have very limited material to pull from and character development?
It's been a thing for sure, because we only know a little bit about Mary from the Gospels, which is the really the only thing I tried to pull from. There's so many other depictions of her and speculation about who she was, and fan fiction about her that it could be easy to get sort of distracted about who she could have been. But what I like about this show is they really try to root her character development in what's been said in the Gospels. So there's some wiggle room there to try to depict those things in a realistic and plausible sense, being helping finance the ministry, what it looks like to be possessed by 7 demons and then exorcised by Jesus. And like, there are these things that we enact and play out and sort of create a backstory to. But yeah, I mean, I try to remind myself too, like, this is still a depiction. This is not all of these things could have happened, sure, but like at the end of the day, Mary Magdalene is her own person, her own story, and we unfortunately don't know that much about her, but we know enough to know that she's a very important figure to Jesus and in his story.
Well, it's kind of looked over very common in people who watch something, a show or a movie, and they think, an actor's choices in certain things, like, I would do this, I wouldn't do that, how much prep time, all that kind of stuff. But people tend to forget that, the writers are the one who's are creating this story. Actors are just putting their spice on top of, this. So in that regard, do you ever read something in your script and you'll go to the script supervisor or your producer's director, but hey, listen, I know why this was in here. We should change this. We should edit this based upon your own information and your own intellect as far as gauging, would this be more accurate? Would it not be? Because writers have so many things going on. Sometimes parts are overlooked or they're not detailed enough, or a character will be able to paint a lot more detail on something, but you ultimately got to get approval, in a way to kind of change certain things. Does that happen much?
It has happened on some other projects. This one, I think I've been hesitant to say anything. I've really enjoyed so much of what they've written for Mary. But then I look back and there are some moments that I'm like, I wish I at least asked a question about, like, why there's a scene where she's reading her own writings to Matthew, and it's in the future, and they're like 50 or 60 years old, like they're quite a bit older, and she calls her writings her little scribblings, and I'm like, you know what, I should have, like, the day I've been like, do I have to say this? I actually don't think she would demean her thoughts that much, especially at such an older age. And they're not little scribblings, they are profound and beautiful and complicated. And so yeah, there's some things that I'm like, maybe I should ask more questions. And I think as I'm growing as an artist and also maturing as a person, I'm feeling more confident to do so. For the longest time, I was just so grateful to have any job. And now I'm realizing the point of having the job and booking the role is to also share what you feel about it and influence it in ways that you feel called to do. So
there's so many things that I watch I have done. I'm like, oh, I would have changed this. I would have changed that. Like, I'm explaining to my wife. I'm like, they did this. This was this. I should have done. It's hard for me to even watch anything I'm doing because I just disintegrated immediately. Like, I wish we hadn't done that. But
it's hard to
then anytime I watch anything he's done, I'm proud of him. And then also I give him so much crap because he played a football coach, and I know why now. They had like long hair, and I'm like, that I'm a big sports fan. I'm like, that doesn't ring true. Why was your hair long? You don't like it. He did a great job. Other than his hair, it's just so distracting to me. And I was like, did anyone not catch this?
And then what was the reason? I had another thing I was doing afterwards. I didn't know it out for. And
I didn't know that. How would I know? If I didn't know you, I would have known that.
But they're like, if I don't cut your hair, I'm like, okay, that one's gonna cut my hair.
There's like one coach great problems to have.
No, I cut a long time ago. It's been kind of long for a while.
Now you look like a coach.
Now I look like a football coach. Yeah. Let's reshoot this thing.
Now it's time.
Well, and then we were talking to actor Jesse Hutch. He's done a lot of Christmas type movies, and
he did Homestead,
and now he's in the movie Homestead with Angel Studios, and it's now a series. So that a movie came out in theaters towards the end of the year, I guess, same time as one of your movies as well. But he's talking about he's been acting for a long time and how hard it was for him to be in a feature film. And now you're in 2 feature films, basically in the period of 3 or 4 months. Talk about that.
It's fun. It's
I bet. Yeah.
No, it's
like hold your breath, like just enjoy this.
No, it's funny because you finally book something, and you think, oh, you do the project and you're done with the project, and then you forget that like a year later you're not done with the project. There's still marketing, there's still press, there's still events and everything. So this past year ended up being so much busier than I expected, and from I think we spent like a total of like 2 months at our house because we were traveling and working and doing all sorts of engagements and press and everything. So it is fun, and I love it. I'm so grateful to be busy. But yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. I was, when I was in Austin, I was really struggling as an actress, and I was doing so much commercial work, and it's like a day of work and then you're done. And then booking The Chosen has really like created so much fantastic work that I'm so excited to do. But the scheduling is so much different than what I was used to previously. But these are the things that I used to pray for and hope for, and so there's nothing to complain about.
Plus, you're friends with Jesus, so that helps.
Wait, he's not a real one. But I do have a really interesting.
The real one and Jonathan, yeah.
There you go. That's great. Yeah.
Question that I've noticed about you and your work and your profile that I've never noticed before. I've never seen it done before, and that is this. I hope you don't mind me asking, but I'm an actor. Your representation. There's no agents, no managers. Is this a conscious decision to like you're going to go about this in your own timing, your own way? Is this because the work you're generating usually is you're at a top 3 agency, there's 3 letters that go before an agency. Is kind of what's the story with that? That's interesting to me.
Yeah. I got to a point, well, it's a complicated story, but I had representation for most of my career, and then there was 1 year in between season 2 and 3 of The Chosen that I was being given a lot of auditions and from my manager, and I was just sort of lots and lots and lots of auditions, but I realized that I'm not good at auditioning. I'm really, really bad.
I don't know if anyone is good at auditioning, to be fair. That's a weird thing.
I hate it. I'm not, my heart's not in it, especially, and it was during COVID, so it was video taped auditions. I found myself just spending so much time preparing and taping and for roles that I was like, I'm not excited about this, and I'm just focusing so much of my time and effort and energy into these things that I don't really want. And so it got to a point where the I don't know, the cons sort of outweighed the pros of having representation at that time. And so I just have a lawyer now, and I have a fantastic PR team. And
yes, you do, Amanda.
You're wonderful.
Yeah.
Between
Nanda, Amanda, we call her in different names.
Every time's a different name. We love her though. She's
I'm sure she is.
Well, that's the thing. Like you're hitting home run after home run on something that so many actors put so much stress and strain on that they're willing to sell their soul for. If I can get with the CAA, man, if I can UTA, that it's over. It's like, well, not really. I mean, because at the same time, people have done what you've done. It's very rare, but people can do that without those representatives and have a meteoric career. So I mean, kudos to you. I just want to bring it up and brag on you. That's something that's not usually very common, and so
it's not common. It's also not it didn't happen overnight. Like I've been like The Shift and Between Borders were projects that were offered to me, and so and so to be able to do that is a type of, I mean, I have a type of gratitude for that is beyond. But I do believe that it's because of the work that I did in The Chosen. And so there's that in and of itself, if you're lucky enough to be on a TV show, you get to grow each season and learn from your mistakes and keep trying new things. And that almost feels like a very public audition tape in a lot of ways. And so it's not as direct as having representation, but like there is, the work is out there. And if you see the work and you like the work and it fits for a project, then it makes sense to have a direct offer.
And
but
that helps a lot to have those.
I might end up getting an agent too. And I'm open to.
Yeah, sure.
Like right now, I've been busy enough to not.
Yeah. Well, they say work begets work, right? So I mean, you got to strike with iron, and that always makes so much harder. It's just that initial inertia that has to be generated that I think is so hard for so many people. And so the fact that you have this is just astounding. And we have two other films we'll talk about real quick.
Well, yeah. Well, and also when you were talking about auditioning, and as someone who's not an actor, but I hear so many of the same things, how they hate the auditioning process. Jason Bateman was talking about recently, and obviously he's been since a child till now, and the director too, about how he hated, and he still hates. He doesn't really have to audition now, but the audition process. But now he's on the other side of the camera. He's like, what I didn't know then is that you want somebody auditioning to nail it. You're like rooting for Bo. You're rooting for Elizabeth. You're like, let's go. We want you. And he said, I wish I'd have known that 40 years ago when I was auditioning and feel like I'm crapping the bed in front of these directors and producers. And so I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that.
And
I didn't think about it from that perspective that these producers and directors and writers, they want to get their project going, and they want you to do well. They're not like, I'm glad you suck.
They're not bringing you in to embarrass you.
No. Although I've heard it said so many times, it's so true that film acting, television acting, you fail publicly for everyone to see every day. And then you learn after the film comes out, you're like, I should have done this differently. But there's such it's unfortunate, but it's the only other art form. Artists can go into a room and they can create music, they can paint, and they can do it privately. They can learn. Not acting. Acting's like, get out there, do it, and you're going to do it in front of people, or you can do it in front of a lot of people when this movie gets picked up. And now the whole world's going to see like, oh man, I didn't know what I was doing.
But it's kind of great because by the time you do see it, there's enough time in between making it and watching it that there's a little distance where you can
I think is that
you can like kind of observe and learn from it without being so also we're just people, we're gonna make mistakes, we can't do everything amazing every time. Like it's okay, it's not the end of the world, it's art.
So you're the best Christmas pageant ever, right? And then and it's in theaters. And I got rave reviews. I mean, I know people that saw it. They're like, I love that movie. It's so much heart and soul. And then you did something the exact opposite, which is not out yet. January 26th will be in theaters nationwide. Between Borders. I was able to watch a screener last night. And holy crap, you're awesome in the movie. I didn't know, because I didn't know. I was like, did she have an accent in real life? I wasn't even sure. I couldn't remember I don't know how you really talk. And I was watching some of your interviews earlier today. I'm like, oh, she's not okay. But I was like,
pretending.
That's another skill. That's a whole nother skill. I cannot do it justice as far as, can you briefly explain what the movie's about? Because it is complicated in many ways, but the storytelling is so impactful. And I'm watching something, and I think it's a skill when you can be entertained, drawn in, and you're learning history at the same time because it's based on a true story. Stuff I had no idea about.
So it is based on the Petrosian family. They're Armenian. They were born and raised in Azerbaijan. The story takes place in the late 80s and early 90s. And they have these fantastic jobs. Yvonne is a rocket scientist and Violetta is a principal of a school, and they're really well established and really comfortable. They have a beautiful life there. And then ethnic tensions become unbearable and really, really threatening to their lives, their well-being. And they flee and they go to Volgograd, Russia. They're allowed to stay there, but they kind of face similar tensions and threats and bullying. And And they really struggle to find a sense of home. They have these two daughters that they just want to protect and take care of and make sure they're okay. And they really let go of all of the things that they found comfort in, just to make sure that their daughters are okay. And while they're in Volgograd, they meet these really wonderful Christian missionaries from West Virginia in America, and are introduced to Christianity and Jesus's teachings. And that starts inspiring and changing the way they look at the world. And Violetta really learns this sense of turning the other cheek and forgiveness and being kind to others, even if they resent you or cruel to you. And we see what that does for her. We see how that changes her life.
Yeah.
And they come to America, they apply for citizenship, and we get to watch their journey as they're applying. And, they face not similar, but they face some bullying in a more insidious and subtle way as they're trying to become citizens. And the story is a really beautiful reminder of what America has been and can be for so many immigrants and refugees who are seeking asylum. So it's a really touching story. And I'm part Armenian myself, so this story I've been wanting to help tell the stories of Armenian people and their plight. And this one has such a happy ending, and I'm really excited for people to get to see it.
Well, and there's something that happens, I won't give it away, but the first 4 minutes that you're like, oh, okay. The courtroom scene, and it's like, have you ever faced any sort of discrimination, or, I don't think it said bullying, maybe it's just said discrimination, and they cut back, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is serious. This is a serious conflict that's going on in this region, and for a large group of people. And the way the story was told, I really, really enjoyed it, because if you say, oh, it's a history lesson, I'm like, no, thanks. No, but this is a history lesson.
Yeah.
It's storytelling at its finest. And your acting ability really shines. And the rest of the cast, but you should be really, I know you are proud of it, but you should be really proud of it. I was like, man, she's got some chops.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're sweet.
Can you do a little bit of the accent for us? Because I don't know, I can't keep the accent for more than 2 seconds. I go right back to Southern.
Southern.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about me. I am so insecure about accents. And I'm so nervous about doing something that is like a stereotype or something like over the top.
Sure.
That I obsessed over this accent for so long. And then as I got into it, I was in it, but I can't do it like off the top of my head. If I did, I would humiliate myself. But I did. I was so worried about doing this and getting kind of it stuck. And then 3 days later, after we wrapped, I started filming season 5 of The Chosen. I was like, how am I going to switch to this? And I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to, but I was okay. I can do this. But I'm nervous about accents, because I'm so impressed when people can just like turn it on. I'm like, I can't. I'm not.
Me too.
Yeah. I had the opposite problem, and that's whereas my agents or managers say, "Can you do this accent?" I'm like, "Yeah." No, I've never done it before, but I can do it. Can you do a Bosnian? Like, absolutely. On the audition, it just nothing. Like, so I have kind of the opposite problem. I think I do any accent. Probably can't do mine. I can do Southern, okay. I mean, I guess I can do my own dialect. Maybe English. I'm British. I can kind of nail that, but not Peaky Blinders good. You know what I mean? Like, there's levels to that accent that you got to be able to actually.
No, there's subtleties to certain accents. Yeah. It's not just an English accent or a British. There are different parts, like different dialects in America. Like, there's so many. Right. You have to get so specific with it, and even the time period of you have to like delve in.
That's a lot of research. It goes into all that stuff.
Now, what are you a fan of? Like, what are you watching?
It's not Star Wars. We know.
We got
Star Wars.
But like, is there a certain show? Do you have a guilty pleasure? What are those type of things that, like, when you just want to chill and you're like, I just love this?
It depends on what I'm wanting. If I'm wanting to like relax at night and not be freaked out, I love like the old comedy classics like The Office and Arrested Development. I love so much.
Parks and Rec.
Some of my absolute favorite TV shows are Mad Men. I don't know how many times I've seen it, just over and over. I'm obsessed with all of
Great
it.
show.
And then I'm a huge David Lynch fan. I love Twin Peaks so much, and I love The Return, one of the most brilliant things I think ever made. I've watched it a number of times, and I think this last time I finally understood what was going on. But I love TV shows and movies that force you to think and analyze and try to make sense of things. I also love what David Lynch does with he shows so much darkness. He kind of takes you through so many different hells in his stories, but he brings you to heaven. He pulls you out and really like brings everything to the light. I think he has a really spiritual perspective of life, and I think it's really closely attuned to how the world operates. And I think sometimes he has been misunderstood in the past as being really dark, when I think he's actually trying to shed light on the power of love and goodness, and might be an unexpected or unpopular opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I love it.
So a lot of times I like to ask just different kind of actor stories. Being an actor that I am, you have to tell me. Everyone has these. Can you tell me a nightmare set story of something that happened that should not have happened? It was atrocious. You can't believe it happened. You were in this, whatever. Everyone's got them. You know, you flubbed the lines or like whatever, lost the day. What's something that comes to mind when you think like, this is a set nightmare that, I wish never would happen, but everything's okay?
I have two stories. They're not that big of a deal though. Sorry, but
she's
one
like,
was,
I missed one word. I'm like, God, like, I missed a page.
I wish it was more exciting, but no, one was when we were filming the Sermon on the Mount, and we had like thousands of extras, and we had a winter disaster storm, frozen. Everyone was just completely cold, but we were filming and outside in Texas, and it was brutal. And we all had our coats on, but we're wearing sandals, and like we're literally frozen. And I have some sort of neck issues sometimes. And I was so cold, I threw my neck out. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't move. And then I'm like, I want to die. I want to quit. I want to leave. I had really terrible cramps. I was just like the worst.
Just
the
a
worst
terrible day.
And I was like, I don't think I want to act anymore. And then I look out into this huge crowd of like 2,000 people, frozen, huge, happy grins on their faces. They couldn't have been happier to be there. And I'm like, I need to stop being a brat. and it's sort of like has snapped me out of, okay, acting can sometimes be so physically uncomfortable, like the discomfort of things, of really hot days or uncomfortable moments on set or whatever. Like I threw my back out again during season 4 when I'm coming down to like lift up Rayma's head as she's dying. And I'm like, I'm in pain the entire time. So, but like, I look back on that, I'm like, well, you don't remember the pain, you remember the experience. And so I've had to kind of get out of, the fear of being uncomfortable on set, and just lean into it and just know like this won't last forever, and what we're creating on camera is so much more important than your physical comfort. So that's one thing. A time earlier though, in college, I was in a play called The Memory of Water, and I play a character who dies and then comes back sort of in my daughter's memory. And we have these interactions. And in one of the scenes, there's a coffin that's set, and I'm supposed to open it and look inside, and it's away from the audience, so they don't like see what's inside. There's nothing inside, but I'm supposed to look at myself and comment on my terrible makeup that they did on me. And I go out there, and this is during a time when I was really struggling with stage fright and trying to be perfect and trying to make every moment perfect and be good at every single thing, and like a lot of pressure on myself. Yeah. And I go out and I try to open the thing, and the coffin, I realize, is set, flipped, reversed. And so I know that if I open the coffin, like the whole audience will see that there's nothing inside, but I have to say what I say to get the story moving. And I just like, what am I going to do? It was so dramatic.
Yeah.
I go around and I peek in and like it clicked. I'm like, the audience knows this is a play.
Right.
They know
I'm
they're not,
leaving.
they know my body is not in there. They're not
Right.
And something about that as I came back around unlocked this fun, this joy of acting. And the rest of the scene, I had never had so much fun in my life on stage. I felt free, and we did things in new ways, and I was just like really in the moment and actually enjoyed it instead of like stressed over it. And that's something that I return to often, of like, the audience knows it's a play, the audience knows it's a film, the audience knows it's a TV show. If it's not absolutely perfect, they know you're an actor. It's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. And so it's brought a lot of the fun back to acting.
And even in film and TV, you get multiple takes. Unlike plays is a different kind of adrenaline that you're going to feel, because it's like you got one take. But if you're in film and TV, it's like, hey, let's do that again.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like what I
The
did.
confidence is the wrong way.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not near as big a deal.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Yes,
Again,
thank
Between
goodness.
Borders comes out nationwide January 26th. Go out and see it. It's very, very well done. And you'll learn something too, which is rare.
And I have not talked to a single person who is not in love with The Chosen.
Oh, I
I
know.
mean,
People love it.
anyone. No one has a bad thing to say about it. It's really insane. So I mean, you should be very excited and happy to be a part of such a series that's so phenomenal and so like earth-shattering and changing in the best of kind of ways, and have such a long run too. You know, and so it's going to hopefully be a long running season.
It's a gift. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Liz.
Nice chatting with you.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
All right, that was great. So we're hit end here, and we really appreciate it.